Okay. Weird. Hey, everybody, we're back. Monday, June 16th, a little after 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 5 days away from the summer solstice, if you can call it that. It is truly the lightest time of the year right now in Vancouver and the surrounding parts of North America. But obviously, there's some sun shining and some bright light right now. As I bring up my friend Niall O'Donohue, who is the author of C's Plus Baseball, a thorough and in-depth site about the Vancouver Canadians and their place in Vancouver sports. And now is also the in-game announcer for the Vancouver Canadians. So if you are at the ballpark and you hear that awesome voice on the PA, you know who you're listening to. So let's just get right into this now because, man, we were talking off the air about this. I write the weekly Batters Box update, and I'll share Batters Box so people can find that website, battersbox.ca. But I went from writing with the Canadians at 25-28 to a week later being at 31-28, and now I believe at 35-28.
Yeah, well, I mean, the nice thing is, I think it's. By the way, thank you for the kind compliment off the top.
No problem, man. Anytime.
I thought, they took 5 out of 6 against Hillsborough a couple of weeks ago. I thought that's great.
That's right.
But the thing is, they were going to have to do it again. They were able to take 5 out of 6 in Tri-City. You get over 500. That was the first time they've been back over 500 since I believe it was the end of April. Okay, that's great. But now you really have to follow it up and do some damage against Spokane. And boy, did they ever. I mean, winning 6 straight. There was one game that was 50-0. Sunday's game was a nail-biter.
Nail-biters are good, too.
It was a very fortunate circumstance for Vancouver to take advantage of basically a missed sign at third base. It looked like Spokane was trying to pull off a suicide squeeze, and it was an easy out of the plate for Aaron Parker to make. And Aaron Parker, what a game he had, basically belting the game-winning home run to make it a 3-1 game.
Good for him. And, I'm just looking at yesterday's lineup. Keep going.
And
you shared it.
JJ Sanchez, he gave up a home run in the 9th, but he's able to get the final 3 outs to nail it down for the save, and they were able to complete a 6-game sweep. We had heard from Spokane broadcaster Mike Boyle that they had never been swept 6 games straight in a series until yesterday. Wow. So that's the first time in the high era.
This is getting exciting. And one thing that will make everybody laugh, as it always does, is me confusing the Spokane Indians high A baseball team with the Spokane Chiefs WHL team, who actually at the beginning of this season, when the Canadians were in Spokane to play the Indians, the Chiefs and Vancouver Giants, were actually playing each other at the same time.
That's
so that was kind of a cool little tidbit that I threw in. But one thing I threw in my Batters Box update last week too now, and you and I talked about this a lot last year, was, obviously the Spokane Indians are a different team, right? They were our nemesis last year, especially in the first half. They owned us, right? It's nice to see the Canadians kind of repay that favor. Obviously, the tables have turned a little bit for Spokane this year. And I can't remember where it was. I saw, I think on X, that those three guys that were playing for Spokane last year have now all moved up a level to AA. Kyle Karros, and I can't remember the other 2. And so I don't know who's in the Spokane lineup as much these days, other than what I have from your share from yesterday, recognizing one name and Charlie Condon being one of them. But we're here to focus on the C. So let's keep this moving, because I had some other stats too that I pulled from some press releases of Tyler Zickles. And for those of you who know, we've had Chris Georges, one of the C's broadcasters, on our show this year, way back in April. But look at the C's here too. 6 wins in a row, 14 of 16. That was on June 12th. And let's talk a little bit about Arjun Namala, because I want to shine a bit of a light on him. Not that you need to. 10th home run in that game last week, youngest qualified player in the Northwest League. And you have a fantastic article about him on C's Plus Baseball.
Well, Arjun is certainly one of the most mature 19-year-olds I've ever met. He certainly knows how to deal with the media. Lord knows he's had a lot of practice at it this year. He's been interviewed by CBC, Sportsnet, MLB Network.
Okay.
So, He's definitely used to the media grind of it all. And sure, he gets a lot more attention, but it hasn't been just Arjun. I mean, yes, he did get the home run. He also had a couple of hits on Saturday with a triple. I mean, after the fielder could not hang on to the ball, it was off to the races for Arjun. And I thought he also had a pretty solid series with the glove as well. He made some good throws. So maybe didn't hit quite as much this homestand, but still has been a very solid player. And I'm expecting big things out of him for however longer he is here, because who knows how much longer he will be here. He might go up to Double-A. We're not sure yet, but that's going to be up to the Blue Jays player ops to decide his fate.
Yeah, it is. And I'm going to share the article, and I was looking at some other stuff because there's some stuff that's obviously a lot of stuff that's happened since, because my last game was May 17th in the ballpark. That turned out to be Jerron Watts Brown's last start in Vancouver before he got promoted to Double-A. So always wondering how a guy like Watts Brown is doing, following him after being lucky enough to see his last start. Some other guys that have moved up recently, obviously, and you could pronounce his name. It's Trey Yesavage or
Savage. Yeah, Trey Yesavage. That's not just like it looks. So I think a lot of people were very disappointed that he was not able to make a start here in the homestand against Spokane, because he had been promoted to Double-A New Hampshire. No question, Yesavage definitely deserved the promotion. He was piling up the strikeouts like nobody's business. But
I see that.
But on the other hand, I would have liked to have seen him get one more start here, because it really is a playoff type atmosphere right now. I mean, these are all huge games for the Canadians, trying to lock down a first half playoff berth. But they decided he was ready for Double-A, and of course, Reading, Pennsylvania is very close to his hometown, so maybe they thought the Jays thought they would just challenge him with an assignment at Double-A. And after a bit of a shaky first inning, he settled down nicely. So that's that's just the way it goes. Unfortunately, would have liked to have seen him. Sometimes I just kind of wonder if the Blue Jays ops really appreciate the intangibles of what it's like to pitch here at Nat Bailey Stadium. I mean, to a man, every player loves playing here. I mean, they enjoy the huge crowds, and I think getting to pitch in a playoff type atmosphere. I mean, no offense to Brent LaValle at New Hampshire, but unfortunately, their first half didn't go according to Hoyle. But I mean, hopefully things will go better for him in Manchester before the second half gets unrolling. But I mean, it was disappointing. I'm not going to lie; I was very disappointed, a little bit outspoken about it. That I just wish Yesavage. No question, we knew his time here was going to be limited. But the fact it was only one start that he got here at Nat Bailey Stadium, at least we got something. But I don't know. I think we would have liked to have seen him start one more game.
Well, I actually think, too, with that playoff atmosphere at Nat Bailey Stadium, and you mentioned Brent, I think Brent's responsible in part for creating that. I think you'd agree, based on his 3 seasons managing here. Obviously, things got goofed up by the pandemic, started here in 2022, right? I think Brent did a lot for this franchise, aside the fact that he's a personal friend of mine and he's been on the podcast. That has nothing to do with it. I think Brent's influence on this team and the atmosphere at Nat Bailey is in part because of his 3 seasons here, not to take away from the new C's manager, right? And you can remind me of his last name because I haven't met and talked to him, right? So it's different for me, right? So, and great for Jose to see this kind of success too, because I think a lot of people have high expectations with a guy like Brent being there. But let's keep moving here too, because we don't want to diverge too much into that. But I got some other stuff here.
There is one point I would like to make about Jose Mayorga, and it's just leading into him. Had nothing but good reports from him in Dunedin. Of course, he was with the Canadians during 2017 and 2018 on the coaching staff. And I had the pleasure of meeting Pat Borders up in the press box during Saturday's game.
That's awesome. That's right. Awesome, man.
And he was mentioning to me he had known Jose Mayorga because he was in the Philly system as a catcher. And he was very complimentary about Jose, saying that he's got that it factor, that he thinks he'll be very successful in this game, that he will be a good manager. And and I mean, I had spoken to him. Pat Borders also had connections with Riley Johnson, who played for the Canadians in 2018. He was a catcher, and also a former Blue Jays pitcher, Justin Schaefer, also a player he had connections with, coaching him as well. So Yeah, it was kind of an interesting little tidbit I thought I'd pass along, but he thinks
that's great. No,
thinks all the world of Jose Mayorga and the players I spoke to last year when they were promoted from Dunedin, where he was a skipper last year. Nothing but great things to say about him, and I think really the players just enjoy playing for him, and he's done a nice job filling the shoes of Brent LaValle.
That's a really interesting thing. There's a number of things we could unpack there, but I got a list of stuff to do. We get to chat a little bit more too. Because for me, like I had forgotten to put this in my show notes for today about Blue Jays Day and Pat Borders. But hey, like for me, when I first started watching the Blue Jays and watching baseball, late 80s, early 90s, it was I think it'd be Ernie Whitted catcher, and it was Pat Borders and Greg Myers for a long time catching for the Jays, right? So that name to me is another one. Obviously, another smart move by the Canadians, staff and management. Obviously, credit goes out to guys like Walter Cosman. To have a guy like Pat come, right? Because to me, that's a name that would draw people to the ballpark for a Canadians game, no matter what. If you're plugged into the Blue Jays and their history in the last, 35 to 40 years, right? So,
absolutely. It was nice. It was nice having two Blue Jays who are basically there the same amount of time. They both began with the Blue Jays in 1988 and finished up in 1994, of course. Both of them moved on to multiple teams after that and were able to stay in the majors for quite a long time. So it was awesome to get to meet them. And I mean, sure, it brings back an awful lot of memories. I mean, I think Blue Jays Day was an absolute success. And here's hoping to more down the line.
Yeah, and I think there's lots of stuff happening at the Nat, but this recent surge has probably created a lot of interest. I noticed that Father's Day game was sold out, which isn't a surprise. And I'm just looking at some more notes here. A couple other things I had. Obviously, previous Northwest League Player of the Week being Nick Goodwin. It's nice to see Nick doing what he's doing, because I liked watching him play last year, and I really like watching him field. But it's what he's been doing with the bat. Maybe you could share a little bit more on that.
Yeah, Nick Goodwin was tremendous last week in Tri-City. He was responsible basically directly for two of the wins, including one that was a comeback win. Down to the top of the ninth, the final out, and then he was able to smack a big 3-run home run, I believe it was, to win one of those games. And then in the series finale last Sunday, he was able to smack a grand slam, and that was huge because the Canadians were trailing heading into the seventh, 5-3, and then they turned it on, and Nick Goodwin's blast kind of gave the C's the breathing room they needed. So it's great to see that Nick Goodwin, he's taking advantage of the playing time he's getting, because Adrian Pinto, an infielder and also one of the Jays' top prospects, he's been out due to injury for quite some time, and Nick Goodwin's been one of the guys to fill that void, and he's been tremendous, as you have it up there on your screen. 5 home runs. I mean, he was easily the runaway player of the week. And if you don't mind me kind of segueing into
of course I don't.
NWL Player of the Week honors, the NWL Pitcher of the Week, in my opinion, should have been Cal. And he pitchings against Spokane only gave up 1 run. That was a solo home run.
Wow.
Struck out 11 batters. So 1 run, 11 innings. The award did not go to him. It went to Hillsborough's Yordine Chalice. And what he put together was a line I don't think was good enough. And I think kind of lazy, personally. Whoever was voting or whoever decided to select these awards, I thought it was really, really sloppy. I'm not going to lie to you. I think Chalice, it rhymes with Wallace. That's how I remember it. Chalice had pitched 7 innings, gave up 3 runs in 2 appearances, but none of the runs were earned. So when you look at the surface stats, 0.000 ERA in 7 innings. And I think that's all the voters looked at, and that was it. And I think Stevens, honestly, he got screwed. The Northwest League Pitcher of the Week award. I mean, he won both starts. I mean, he went 2-0 and gave it just 1 run in 11 innings and struck out 11. I'm sorry. I mean,
I shared those stats here, and I actually cut and pasted it out of X on Twitter to share it. I believe it's Tyler Zickel actually that shared that about Cal's 3rd start for the Vancouver Canadians. I mean, the 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 runs, maybe doesn't look too attractive to people, but no walks and 11 Ks alone. Justified.
Those stats are good enough. I mean, when I first saw the tweet about the minor league player of the week awards, I said, "Oh well, Chalice really must have pitched well." Not really. He pitched 4 fewer innings.
Stir the pot, man. It's always good. Stir the pot. It's always good. That's
I don't know. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't get it. I don't normally get worked up over these things.
That's what we're here to talk about. We're not just here to.
I'm worked up.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the whole purpose, right? Like, we're not just here to agree with everything that happens in the Northwest League. We're here to provide people with in-depth analysis and information, and look at stuff within the team and the game and the trends and the things that are happening. Right, not just always the positives. We're here to, like I always like to try and provide stats and information, some kind of an objective thing, and not just let's just say how much we love the Seas. That's not what this is about for me. So just looking at some other notes I got here too. I've got 3 starting lineups in front of me. Yours from yesterday, my 2, April 29th, May 18th. I had forgotten about Adrian Pinto, but for those that know, Adrian Pinto was not featured on this podcast, but that was one of our main topics when I discussed with Brent LaValle several months ago about Adrian's play because of his work in the Arizona Fall League. And so that's something to mention. And we should always take the time to plug a few friends on this podcast, including Niall. Also want to plug the Iowa Meat Truck because I'm still following the Iowa Meat Truck, not just because of his name, but he's had some games in New Hampshire as well.
Yeah. It hasn't gone, the season hasn't gone quite according to Hoyle as he would like, but he has shown signs of maybe breaking out of it. But I mean, the jump from high A to double A, it's kind of considered one of the biggest ones. And I think you're kind of seeing that with the minor leagues. Now that they've condensed the minors, you don't have as many levels now because you used to have rookie ball, short season A ball, which the Canadians were, and then low A and then high A. I mean, they've basically cut down 7 levels to 4. So, so unfortunately, sometimes you have these development blips, but certainly I think time is still on his side, and hopefully he will get it going together again. And hopefully New Hampshire will have a strong second half. That's been known to happen in the Brent LaValle era. So don't count out the Fisher Cats. Maybe the first half is a lost cause, but I think the second half, I'm expecting better things out of them once the second half gets rolling next week.
Yeah, so let's segue into that a little bit too, because I know you're going to add some other stuff, but just some research I was doing. And I want to share a little bit more about Tyler's press release, because obviously there's a funky looking playoff scenario here that Tyler had shared yesterday after the win. Canadians maintain sole possession of first. Second place is Everett, leading 4-0 against Tri-City. That was yesterday. I don't know how that game ended up.
Unfortunately, not the way the Canadians would have liked. They definitely, Everett definitely put the boots to Tri-City, unfortunately. So, so it's still a 1-game lead heading into the final 3 games of the first half. So basically, still the Canadians control their own destiny. They win these 3 games. There's nothing Everett can do. But the Canadians stumble, then the doors open for Everett, because unfortunately, I believe Everett will have the tiebreaker because they have won the season series, because they did manage to get a split in Everett in 6 games, but unfortunately, when Everett was here not that long ago, Everett took 4 out of 6, and that was after the Canadians won the first 2 games of the series. So if they had just gotten one more, they would be a much better. They'd certainly be in the driver's seat for sure, having a tiebreaker, but. That's what the Canadians have to do. They have to keep winning, basically match whatever it does. I think it's probably the easiest way. If that happens, if it's identical results all the way through, I think Hillsborough still has a chance. They have 2 games. They're 2 games out of the race. But the Canadians would have the tiebreaker on them because all 12 games, I believe they've won, I think it was 8 of the 12, if I'm not mistaken. My math might be a little wrong, but they do have the season series tiebreaker. So it's Everett really they have to worry about, but they control their own destiny. They keep winning, they'll have a first half playoff berth. If not, then Everett has a chance.
So the Canadians then now, for their last series of the season, obviously, for those who don't know, I know this intimately, so do you, a 6-game series this week, obviously Tuesday through Sunday. As always, I learned that lesson, that little tidbit a few years ago, actually from Brent LaValle's mother in 2022. I was sitting there at a Canadians game and I happened to sit next to her, and she's like, it's always a 6-game series, Tuesday through Sunday, Monday's off. And so today's a day off for the Seas. They are traveling to Eugene for a 6-game set against the Eugene Emeralds. Tuesday night at 6:35. And just Tyler's note here, first 3 games of the series are the final 3 games of the first half. So that'll determine obviously a little bit of scoreboard watching, but that'll determine if the Seas win the first half And like you said, they're in control of their own destiny. What are their chances taking some wins out of Eugene?
Well, I think they'll have the pitchers to line it up. I believe it's going to be Jackson Wentworth who will start. Jackson did show some signs. He had been stumbling a little bit. He certainly showed some decent signs and was able to keep the team in the game on Wednesday against Spokane. So they'll look to him. Gage Stanifer, I believe, will probably start Wednesday. Okay. And then I believe it's Chris McIlvaine on Thursday. And McIlvaine looked really solid. He's just getting back from a UCL injury. He was rehabbing in Dunedin, made his Nat Bailey Stadium return during the homestand and put together 4 pretty good innings. And hopefully he can keep building on that. So I think they have the pitching to line up. And Lord knows the offense has been showing up big time. And I mean, Sunday's game was one of those rare games. It was a 1-run victory for one, and and they scored less than 5 runs. So, I mean, things are definitely rolling pretty good. 18 out of 20, as you mentioned. I think one other note, the Rafael Devers trade
I was going to say,
has an effect on the series. James Tibbs III.
It does.
Yes, he was with Eugene, but now he's gone. So at least that's kind of one less worry, but we'll have to see who Eugene will call up. So, but at least he's kind of one player the Canadians won't have to worry about for the 6-game series, and more importantly, for the first 3 of the series.
Well, great minds think alike, because I worked at the ballpark all of last year, and I saved a lot of lineup cards, and I saw that Rafael Devers trade, and I saw that James Tibbs III. I'm like, I know that name. I'd made a note on that name last year when we podcasted, and I saw that trade and actually cut and pasted it out, and I obviously knew about the Devers trade. Obviously, with my involvement with this podcast, following the Canadians, following your stuff, my involvement with my friends in the Society for American Baseball Research, taking this opportunity as a little aside to plug the Clyde Sukeforth chapter in New Hampshire, my friend, Bruce McClure, who runs that chapter. And I saw that trade, and I saw that James Tibbs III thing. But I was like, that's one of the prospects I saw last year play against the Seas. Yeah, so he's moved all the way over to being in the Red Sox organization. Where does he land?
On the East Coast, I'm not sure whether they'll assign him to High A or do they move him up to Double A. But I know that trade is getting a lot of attention in Boston. I think some people are pretty upset. So yeah, it looks like he might go to High A. I believe it's Salem.
Okay. I'm looking at the list here because I have it.
I'm not sure yet. They could bump him up, but who knows? I mean, Tibbs III was a first-round pick out of Florida State University. I believe it was last year. So, so he's a pretty, a prospect of renown. Like, he's certainly known in the game.
Yeah, he is. That's right. And that's why I recognize that name right away from that trade. And then the other guy, obviously, if I have it correct, is a guy like Bryce Eldridge. He's another,
that's right.
Sort of gem within that system, right?
He is, and I believe he's at AAA now with Sacramento. So he's definitely taking leaps and bounds. Yes, he's moving up quick. So who knows? We might see him in the bigs sooner rather than later. And certainly the Giants are kind of pushing the chips all on the table, trying to keep pace with the Dodgers and trying to stay relevant in the National League playoff race. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. But certainly it was kind of neat to see Bryce Eldridge here last year doing very well and moving on to bigger and better things.
All right, thanks. Now let's wrap it up there. Thanks for the update as always. Getting in lots of baseball juicy tidbits. Obviously, even though this is my podcast, we will focus on high A baseball. You got to throw that Rafael Devers trade in there because that's one of the kind of trades you see come up in Major League Baseball that probably makes a lot of people stand up and take notice whether you follow the league that closely or not. Because I know from earlier in the season, and we discussed this within one of my Sabre meetings, we talked about that move of Devers to first base, and I was like, what is that about? And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't, and I was thinking too, like you've got Devers and Alex Bregman, who the Red Sox got from Houston, right? In the offseason, they signed him. And I was like, how do you not like an infield with guys like Devers and Bregman, right?
Yeah, especially when they're just coming off a sweep, I guess, against the Yankees or a series victory. And it's kind of curious timing to say the least. I mean, but I don't know. Yeah. Not sure.
A little shocking, I think. All right, now thanks for doing this, man. Everyone, please make sure that you check out. Please make sure that you check out csplusbaseball.ca. I've shared it already on this podcast. Niall's chat with Arjun Namala, which really made me take notice last week. It's a real real kudo for now to be able to get to talk to him on his site, given all the positive press around Arjun. But we're going to wrap it up there. We'll talk to everyone soon.
All right.